She walked straight into places everyone else was fleeing. Gunfire cracked through the air. The wounded lay scattered across muddy fields and makeshift barns. Surgeons were overwhelmed. Supplies were gone. And in the middle of this chaos stood a woman everyone told should not be there. She was not a soldier. She was not a nurse by training, and she certainly had no official permission. But Clara Barton had come anyway. When someone warned her that bullets did not discriminate, she replied calmly that suffering didn't either. That moment would define her life, not as a single act of courage, but as a pattern. Again and again, Clara Barton would step into disorder, pain, and resistance and insist on something radical for her time. That compassion could be organized, persistent, and powerful. Long before she became known as the Angel of the Battlefield, Clara Barton was a quiet, painfully shy child who struggled to speak in public. Few could have predicted that this same girl would later build one of the most enduring humanitarian institutions in history. This is the story of how she did. Clara Barton was born on December 25, 1821 in North Oxford, Massachusetts, the youngest of 5 children. Her father, Stephen Barton, was a veteran of the Revolutionary War who filled her childhood with stories of bravery and service. Her mother, Sarah Barton, was practical, disciplined, and emotionally distant. From an early age, Clara learned self-reliance, not because it was encouraged, but because it was necessary. As a child, Clara was intelligent but painfully timid. Social situations overwhelmed her. She struggled with anxiety long before the word was commonly used. But when her older brother David suffered a serious injury after falling from a barn roof, Clara found something inside herself that surprised even her. For 2 years, she became her primary caregiver, administering medicines, managing treatments, and watching closely for signs of improvement or decline. It was her first encounter with sustained responsibility, and it changed her. Teaching became her first profession. At a time when women were paid far less than men, Clara insisted on equal pay and often got it. She founded a free public school in Bordenton, New Jersey, growing it from a handful of students to several hundred. But when the school became successful, local officials replaced her with a male principal. It was a familiar pattern. Clara opened doors and others walked through them ahead of her. Frustrated, she moved to Washington, D.C., where she became one of the first women to work as a clerk in the U.S. Patent Office. Once again, she proved competent, and once again she faced hostility, dismissal, and pay cuts simply for being a woman. Then the Civil War began. When the first wounded soldiers arrived in Washington in 1861, Clara noticed something most officials overlooked. Supplies sent by families, bandages, food, clothing, were piling up unused in warehouses due to bureaucratic delays. She began collecting, organizing, and personally distributing them. At first, she worked behind the scenes, but soon she realized that the real need was not in the capital, it was at the front. With relentless determination, Clara secured permission to travel to battlefields. She funded much of her work herself, driving wagons loaded with supplies across dangerous terrain. She arrived at places like Antietam and Fredericksburg while fighting was still ongoing, tending to wounded soldiers as cannon fire echoed nearby. She did not flinch. At Antietam, a bullet tore through her sleeve and killed the man she was assisting. Clara barely paused. There were others bleeding, others calling out, others who would not survive the night without help. Soldiers began calling her the Angel of the Battlefield, though Clara herself disliked the title. She did not believe in angels, she believed in preparation. When the war ended, Clara was physically exhausted and emotionally drained. But peace did not bring rest. Tens of thousands of families were searching for missing loved ones. Clara opened an office to help locate soldiers listed as missing or unaccounted for. Over several years, she helped identify the fate of more than 20,000 men. Her work took her to Andersville Prison in Georgia, where she helped mark and identify graves of Union soldiers who had died in captivity. Standing among endless rows of wooden markers, Clara confronted the scale of suffering that war leaves behind, even after the guns fall silent. By her early 40s, Clara's health collapsed. Doctors ordered her to rest, and she traveled to Europe to recover. It was there that she encountered something that would change her direction once again: the International Red Cross. Founded in Switzerland, the Red Cross provided neutral humanitarian aid to soldiers and civilians during wartime. Clara was immediately struck by the simplicity and power of the idea. During the Franco-Prussian War, she worked with Red Cross units helping civilians trapped by siege and displacement. When she returned to the United States, she carried a mission with her. America had not signed the Geneva Convention. It had no Red Cross organization. Clara Barton intended to change that. For years, she lobbied politicians, wrote letters, gave speeches, and refused to be ignored. Many dismissed the idea as unnecessary. America, they argued, was not constantly at war like Europe. Clara responded with a broader vision: disaster relief, not just for war, but for floods, fires, epidemics, and earthquakes. In 1881, at nearly 60 years old, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross. She did not retire into a ceremonial role. She led from the field. Under her leadership, the Red Cross responded to floods along the Ohio River, hurricanes in the South, wildfires in Michigan, and famine relief abroad. Clara worked into her 70s, often exhausting herself physically and emotionally. But leadership came at a cost. As the organization grew, critics accused her of mismanagement and resistance to bureaucracy. Clara was hands-on, intensely independent, and suspicious of committees. Eventually, internal conflicts forced her to step down in 1904. She was 82 years old. Clara Barton spent her final years writing, speaking, and reflecting. She never married, she never had children, but her legacy was immense. She had professionalized compassion. She had built systems where once there had only been chaos, and she had done it in a society that repeatedly told her to step aside. When Clara Barton died in 1912, the world no longer questioned whether women belonged in leadership during a crisis. She had answered that question with her life. She once wrote, "I may be compelled to face danger, but never fear it." And that, more than any title, explains who she was. Not an angel, not a symbol, but a woman who chose to walk towards suffering and refused to look away.